to start creating the left eye socket. I'll show you on my sample. Unfortunately, I have completed the eye socket, so I've stitched them closed, so it's not a great deal of help. So if you look at your photograph in your pattern, you will see there's like an open section, and the way we create that is there's no short rows or any jiggery pokery. It is just simply we're going to be working one small section and then another section. I'll show you what we mean. Okay, so row 9, we're working a purl row, and we're not working all the way across. We're just going to be working 5 stitches, which is going to be the starting point of this sort of small subsection of stitches that we're going to be using for the part above the eye socket. So that's 3, 4, oh, stitch was twisted there, took it back, and 5. So no wrapping or anything, no wrapping of stitches, but we are going to turn again, so that we're now going to start working back across the knit side. So you can see we're just working with a very small subset of stitches here. That's this bit's nice and quick. We're going to do increasing in the way we've been working those so far, which is knitting front and back. So if I get to the last stitch, so I've got a knit 4, 3, 4, and this is what our increases look like. We just do a knit front and back. So knit into the front of the stitch, we've done this before obviously, and then just knit into that back of the stitch like so. Oh, it's not worked. Let's try that again. There we go. All right, so I've increased my stitch count to 6 there, 2, 4 and 6. So again, still a very small subset of the stitches that are on this needle, but we're going to carry on making like a little piece coming up off of these stitches here. So our increases are knit in front and back, which you are fully familiar with. So I'm now going to work row 11, which is a straightforward purl row. Just get all the yarn and everything untangled. Right, so straightforward purl row, purl 6 now. And then I just want to show you the decrease that we're using. Right, so the decrease happens in row 12, which we're now going to start, and it is a slip 1, knit 1, pass slip stitch over decrease. And if you're not sure of that, it's ever so straightforward. So I'm going to slip the first stitch, so I've just slipped it from the left needle to the right needle. I'm going to knit the second stitch, and then I'm going to pass that first stitch that I slipped over the one that I knit, and where there were 2 stitches, there is now 1. So that's the decrease. That's the only decrease we've got to do in this little section. So what I'll do, since you know knits front and back and all that kind of stuff, I won't go through this whole piece with you. I will get to the end of row 16 and see you at the end of row 16. Right, I've just finished working row 16. So we're now up to 9 stitches because I've been doing my knit front and back increases at either end. So I've got 9 stitches on the needles, and I'm going to purl 9 and then cut the yarn. Exciting. Right, so just purling across those few stitches we've built up. Okay, so if I just show you from the right side of the work, we've created, oh, it's hard to show you, we've just kind of created that extra little, you can sort of see an eye shape, an eye arch, if you like, forming that way, can't you? So I'm going to cut the yarn, and by cut it, I mean I'm just going to break it. Okay, and then we're still on a wrong side row. We're going to carry on. So we're now doing the left cheek continued part. So we've got wrong side facing, and we're going to rejoin the yarn to these remaining 12 stitches, the ones that we didn't work at all. I don't really do anything special to rejoin the yarn, I just carry on working it. So I'm going to purl 12. So I put my needle in as if to purl in the normal way. I get my yarn off the ball and I just do a little loop and carry on like that. So you know, if you've got a different way of rejoining yarn, go ahead, that's absolutely fine. You might want to sort of tie a knot or something, but we are going to actually sew this part up, so you can sew in these ends if you want and tighten it all up. So yeah, that's why I've not gone too overboard on reattaching yarn. So just purl across to the end, which is going to be row 9, and you should be purling 12. Okay, I've got across to the end now, so you can see I've got this larger piece that isn't joined to this shorter piece that we've just done. And we'll carry on working this now. So that was row 9, purl 12. Row 10, we've got a decrease row, so it is that slip 1, knit 1 situation again. So we'll do that to begin with. So slip the first stitch, knit the second one, and pass that slipped one right over the top of the one you've just knit. Okay, so 2 have gone down to 1. I'm now going to knit 8 stitches and knit 2 together. 7 and 8, and now I'm just simply going to knit those last 2 stitches together. I usually kind of put my needle in from right to left to loosen them up a bit before I knit 2 together, but that's just personal preference. Knit 2 together, and I'll just give that yarn a pull from the back. Right, so that's the end of row 10. I've now got 10 stitches, so I'm going to purl across those 10. I'm going to do row 12, which is another decrease, which will take me down to 8 stitches, and I'm going to purl across them again, and that will bring me up until the end of row 13. So I'm going to join you again at the beginning of row 14 just to show you what happens there. Okay, I'm at the end now of row 13. I've just purled those 8 stitches, and what we're going to do in row 14 is we're going to knit all the way along and join them all back together again. So if I just show you, it's intuitive, nothing too arduous, so let's get on with it. We're going to continue in the decreasing vein that we started in, which is to decrease at the beginning of the row. So I'm slipping one, knitting one, passing that slip stitch over the top of the one I've just knit. So that's just as before. Now if I'm going to knit the 6 stitches I've got left on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, so you can now see we've got a great big gap, and then we've got some more stitches on our needle from before. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on knitting and join those together. So we've got 9 stitches to join here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, and it's now just about joined. Okay, so on row 15 you're just going to do a purl row, but pull the tension nice and tight as you go across those stitches, just to really reinforce that join. So perhaps a bit tighter than you normally would, but not so tight that you'll break the yarn, because you saw that you can break it just by pulling. But just give your tension a bit more attention than you might normally, because you've got that join happening. So I'm going to go across there now and do that. Okay, so I'm now coming up to the join, and I'm going to just really give that tension a tug, or give the yarn a tug, and do it again on that stitch. keeping it tight, and again on that stitch, and just one more. So basically sort of the 4 stitches across to either side of that join, give that a good pull, and that will close that join up nice and securely. Okay, so let's look at this. Okay. Yeah, okay, it's a bit sinister, I hear you, but it won't be for long. So we've created an eye or an eye socket for our bunny on the left-hand side. Right, we're now going to put these stitches onto a stitch holder or spare yarn or anything at all that you've got. I don't really have a stitch holder, so I tend to just thread a bit of smoother knitting yarn through it, a bit of cotton or something, thread that through with a darning needle and keep them on there. Just anything to keep those stitches held and keep them live. And then we're going to start creating the right cheek and right eye socket, and it's worked in exactly the same way, except you're working wraps and turns on the purl side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work the first part of the cheek and then just quickly revisit you in the short rows, just to make sure you're happy with wrapping and turning on the purl side.